Hi everyone, this is Laura Bowen, Executive Director of USTA Florida, and welcome to this special in-person edition of the Here to Serve podcast. We're at our Fort Walton Beach Tennis Center, and this is one of our 4 managed facilities where we're hosting a workshop for tournament directors and officials. But this isn't just any workshop. We're hosting a workshop that includes electronic line calling with our partners at SwingVision. For this episode of the podcast, I had the chance to sit down with George Opelka and talk about some of the advances in SwingVision and how we can better use technology in tennis. Check out this episode and tune in to USTAFlorida.com/here to serve for upcoming topics and dates. Welcome to the pod. It's good to be here.
I'm thrilled to be here.
It has been a while since we've had a podcast together. We did one on swing probably about a year or so ago, probably a little more than a year ago now. Can you talk to us a little bit about what's changed with SwingVision since we last spoke on the podcast in terms of, you know, what you provide in terms of the service, the technology, anything that's changed? Because I think you guys have made some exciting upgrades.
We have. You know, we innovate at like a rapid pace. So 1 year, 2 years is like 5 years. Mm-hmm. So a lot's changed, and you know, we're constantly learning. We've got so many users now, and the key to us continuing to improve is just listening. Mm-hmm. And so I'd say, you know, where we've really evolved across the last year or so is there's been a big focus on. Obviously, one of the reasons that we're here this week is electronic line calling or electronic line challenges. So the technology has really evolved. In the last year, we've had a lot of exposure and a lot of opportunity just to learn just by getting out there. And we'll probably talk more about this today in this conversation. But electronic line challenges, electronic line, you know, calling technology. We've learned so much from the college tennis space. We have, you know, we probably have over 150 teams now using the app. So when you do the math on that, that's thousands of matches a week, you know, in season. And so what we really learned from the college, just our college experience is being able to scale our solution, you know, because we've always been a stick and a camera on the back of the fence, you know, for a consumer or a junior or adult player. But when we're rolling out to, you know, hundreds of colleges and thousands of courts at a time, you know, across the country, we've really built more of an enterprise solution where we can manage multiple courts from like a central location. From a central location, which is huge. Yeah. You know, so we learned a lot about that. We've also, that means not just spinning up cameras for video analysis, but also live streaming. Yeah. So we've got more and more colleges that are using us not just for video analysis, but for live streaming. Yeah. They've got the infrastructure to do that. More and more of the colleges now are investing in the appropriate infrastructure to stream matches for Wi-Fi and those kind of things. So I'd say from a scalability standpoint, we've grown up a lot in that space, in that area of as well. So that's been huge for us. ELC, multi-sports. You know, we've tennis is still, you know, that's still our sweet spot. We're still the big daddy tennis is. Absolutely. I'm a tennis guy. We're the big mama. You know, we've modified the app to support pickleball, and we're getting tremendous interest from padel or paddle, whatever you want to call it. So those areas, that's been a big area of expansion for us. But also just making the app more stable and more adaptable and more easy to use. Mm-hmm. We're even innovating more along the stick further. Yeah. So we're looking at more of a motorized stick to help facilitate just a quicker setup. Yeah. So you'll see that real soon. Also dabbling into remote coaching. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of that. You know, people have been doing that with spit and paste. You know, if you know if people send me a video and I'll text you my tips and those kind of things. So we're trying just to streamline that across our user base with our own ecosystem. That makes sense. I wanted to talk more about like the work you've done with colleges
And also with our colleagues over at USTA SoCal. So you've had a lot of experiences now with electronic line calling, but like you said, live streaming and some other things. What feedback are you getting from the customers, and what are some of the hurdles you're seeing that we have to kind of pay attention to as we move forward with implementing the technology?
Yeah, those are great questions. I mean, the key is from where we sit, the key is listening.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. You just have to just talk to the customer because there's so much knowledge, whether it's coming from a parent, whether it's coming from a junior or, a coach. There's just so much information we can tap into. And that we just by getting out there, you're going to get feedback. There's so many smart people, not just great tennis players, and there's so many smart people out there. The kids, when they get on the court, it's amazing. They're all fearless, So, and they're smart. So from everything that we're doing, we learn so much from every time we go out to any one of these events. So last year, I want to say across the third and fourth quarter, maybe just the fourth quarter. I know in SoCal we refereed, or they refereed, over 500 matches last year with ELC.
That's incredible.
That's incredible. And that's just, we learned so much from those experiences, from everything from just how do we do this from a infrastructure standpoint.
Right.
Because we go, as you go to so many of these different facilities that are, if they're city managed, city-owned facilities, they don't always have the latest and greatest.
They don't have power. Well, that's number one. They don't have electrical devices.
They don't have electrical. They don't have Wi-Fi
or internet.
Or enough Wi-Fi maybe to get a heartbeat. Because we need not just we, but in the tennis world, you need
right.
You need Wi-Fi, whether or not you're just to spin up your tournament management system.
Yeah.
So those kind of things. So we learned a lot about just managing infrastructure and communicating needs to these different facilities. So that was huge for us, which really it pushes the innovation bar. So hey, what can we do? So like in SoCal last year, we've become pretty seasoned at leveraging Starlink. As part of our solution, which we've got here in Fort Walton Beach this week, which is just super exciting to be able to come to a place that just doesn't have the infrastructure,
right?
But being able to do it from both a affordable and a portable standpoint.
Yeah, and part of the reason we chose this is we wanted a realistic perspective. I mean, we manage 4 locations, and part of the management that we do is to learn.
Yeah.
So to come here to Fort Walton and say, this is your stereotypical Florida public tennis facility. The only difference is that USTA Florida is here to manage it, and we have humans and we have resources, and we can try some things without any risk or cost. And, we had those hurdles here, and we've been spending several days trying to solve that puzzle.
And it's been fun. I mean, we've learned, just this week, we've learned so much. And we did the same thing out, like back to your question, we did so much of that in California. We've done that with colleges and even with some college invitationals. So we've done some really innovative things. We've got so much feedback from these people, not just from the kids, but from the parents. I mean, we've interviewed parents post matches. We've done surveys, and it just seems like there's a lot less, I don't want to say drama, just matches are just more about the tennis. That's ultimately what we want to do, is just help grow the game. I personally don't think we've got this big, I don't think we have this big cheating epidemic in tennis, but it's a lot of pressure to put on a junior or anybody to be both a player and a referee.
That's right.
So we're trying to remove that so people can just focus on just becoming better tennis players and having fun. And we're really getting really good feedback, but we're also evolving from that feedback,
Yeah. That's one of the things we loved about partnering with you. And the first part of our work here was what we did today, which is bringing in our tournament directors and officials. And you had mentioned that you had a really engaged group here, and they asked you and some great questions and brought up some great things. Can you share a little bit about what you all learned today from the group that we brought here?
Yeah, we really had a great exchange today. I mean, you had so many different disciplines here. You know,
did.
we had officials, we had tournament directors, we had IT people, and we had the opportunity to go on the court with officials for you know, a good hour today, and show them, hey, what are we doing with our challenge system and kids? Because their role is still to, you know, what we're doing here with ELC doesn't eliminate.
No, it makes it a little more important to me.
Absolutely. They're managing the exceptions. But the kids are they're managing their own line challenges just like they do on the tour. But we learned just from just about certain things in terms of the flow, how we can improve things, and because all these officials, from the people we were interacting with today, you have people that have been on the tour.
Yeah.
You know, have sat in the chair.
Yeah.
So we've got some good feedback from what they're used to seeing and what sort of experience they've had with technology. And some of it just might be adding a simple little button.
Yeah.
You know, in the app that gives them one more thing that, hey, this is going to happen in the match, and we might need to come in and override something. You know, so we really got some good feedback, not just you know, of what we've currently built, but what we can do to make our app or our solution better for the next tournament.
That's what I love about partnering with you all, is that we're always looking to improve and be better. And we say that at USTA Florida. You know, we try things like this, and the main point is run it, get the feedback. Don't try to make it perfect, right? Over time, it'll get better. And I think today, bringing together this group of people who had vastly different experiences, you know, that they brought into the room, and they were all heavily engaged, and you are going to take that back, and we're going to take that back and say, okay, so now we're going to do this again. And then we're going to do it again, and we're going to make it better.
I mean, exactly. I mean, we feel the same way about the partnership. You know, I like to say that we color by number. You know, you know, we don't claim to know everything. We have what I love about the SwingVision team is what really attracted me, aside from the technology just being I think, so ahead of the curve, is the team is fearless. You know, and we do listen, and we're not afraid to fail. It's no different than what I would say to a junior that really wants to continue to get better. Don't be afraid to lose. You have to be able to, you know, if you can get over that fear of losing, you're going to just improve. And that's our approach with what we're doing with SwingVision. I think it's a great opportunity for all of us to work together to move the industry forward. You know, this is, you know, ELC is part of what we're doing here this weekend, but to me, it's just such a small sliver.
Well, let's talk about that, because I've been thinking a lot lately about the future of the industry and what it looks like in 5 years, and technology is part of that space. In fact, it's probably 80% of that space of what changes and how we move forward. So when you think about what tennis looks like in 5 to 10 years, how is Swing sort of preparing for that future state of tennis?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, and you know, I have a tech background and a little bit of a tennis background, but you know, from 5 to 10 years to me is in tech years, it's like 1 to 3 years. You know, because it moves so quick, and there's so much going on in this industry, in the world. You know, from AI to what you guys are doing here this week with Starlink and everything portable that we're doing here. Everything we're doing, it really revolves around just data, video, analytics. You know, I really think where I see us is we're going to continue to just leverage the video and the data, and it's such an amazing educational tool if you're willing to.
Yeah.
I really think what we're doing with data analytics and video is it'll give you back what you put into it. You know?
I was just going to say, I feel the same way about the investment, time, and energy we're making now is going to pay off in making the jobs of the tournament director, the official, grievance, all of that administrative burden, or at least, you know, I think there's studies that say 30% of our jobs are going to be automated. Yeah. That's the stuff I want to automate, so the humans can be free to do that higher level thinking. And exactly what we did here today going through this process is we need to think through these things. What we don't need to do is all of the manual work that these types of tools could automate by sitting in a control center and knowing exactly when the match is done, putting on the next match. You don't need to spend a lot of human time doing that. And I think at some point, even these tools actually start anticipating things like rain. I mean, it's raining here right now, that it says, hey, in 15 minutes, there's going to be rain. You better, get scores in, like look at the scores, start making your rain plan or your plan to suspend play. And it can even be as sophisticated as here's a potential solution. It looks like the rain's going to end in 45 minutes. Your courts take 45 minutes to dry or an hour to dry. And here's the potential reschedule. That's what I would love to see in the future.
See, you just hit on like everything I wasn't even talking about, But operationally, everything that we're doing here, because I'm not thinking operation, I'm thinking about, okay, how do we get kids, just making people better tennis players. But operationally, everything we do is going to improve the way a tournament is run.
Because if you're not spending time on the operations, you can do all kinds of things to improve that player experience. That a lot of times our tournament directors, they're a one-person show plus an official. They're doing so many of these tasks, they don't have time to think about that broader experience. And I would love to see that happen.
And it's just, if everybody does their job, it just happens.
Yes.
If the players come to if they come to the digital pads and update the scoreboard, well, guess what? That updates 11 matches across the board. They're playing on displays all over the facility. The tournament director can say, oh, we're ready for court 6. It should be ready in about 2 minutes, or 5 minutes. So you can start calling people to the table. All those things that, that I don't think about, but that's all the data and the analytics all coming to the forefront. And what we want to do is we just want to, if you use our tools right, even if you use them today, they will accelerate the tennis IQ of these kids so much younger, so much earlier, and so much faster that you're going to see them playing better tennis much earlier if they watch themselves play. And because we're doing things like, we have an AI coaching model now where we're tracking patterns, successful patterns, unsuccessful patterns, and we're teeing them up on phones, so they're at the breakfast table saying, oh my gosh, look what I could have done better last night,
And they're already wired for that. These kids are used to playing video games. They're getting gamification in school and other things. Like, their brains are wired to know that they need to use tech, and particularly AI, for all kinds of other learning and interactions and competitions.
They are. I mean, first I've seen the college people, and now kids are already there.
Yeah.
But I'm getting when we first started rolling out SwingVision to colleges, and they're uploading their matches to the cloud, and they get, they automatically show up on the players' phones. I remember it was George Opelka. I was talking to Kevin King, one of their assistants. He says, I'm getting calls on Saturday morning from my players there at breakfast saying, hey, where's my match from last night? So that stuff just is happening. So it is such a great tool to watch yourself play. It used to be pushback. We used to push, I don't want to see myself play. Now it's like, hey, where's my match?
Yeah. How do you get better?
And that's that's what's exciting, is when we start having all these different, overlays, whether it's, heat maps, with shot distribution and serve location and those kind of footwork, all those kind of things, and being able to filter data like that. It's just so powerful.
It is.
I mean, I think it's a super exciting time for our sport, obviously. I mean, it's just, and to be able to work with all these different people that touch a tournament this weekend is like super exciting for us.
Good.
And I think even if we get, if we don't get cooperation with the weather, even today's session was amazing for us.
Well, it's going to rain all out tonight, so that by tomorrow morning we'll be ready to play some tennis. So the timing couldn't be better for this rain. I have one more question for you, though.
Sure.
For those of us working in tennis, what should we be doing more of to embrace technology and implement it going forward?
Rip off the Band-Aid.
Just do it?
No, it's such a good question too. Because I asked myself, why isn't everybody embracing this stuff? And not that nobody is, because there's a lot of obviously there's a lot of people that are. I do think there's some fear out there.
Yeah.
With the maybe some of the older crowd, But once they get their arms around it, even I can say, because he's like Chuck Gill. Chuck is a guy that just dove into it. He ripped off the Band-Aid, and start using it. And once the seasoned people that are out there start using it, they're going to start asking questions. Well, how do I use it this way?
Right.
And so we can go, instead of, a lot of people are bringing, like coaches want to bring the tech out to the court, but you don't really have to. You can go from court to classroom. As I say, you can bring the tech, especially some of the things we're doing like with remote coaching. You can coach from your couch.
Yeah.
So I do think this, hey, call us, call me, reach out to somebody else, reach out to a friend, and don't be afraid to ask questions. Start learning about like video analysis. The tools are so powerful out there, and they're not crazy expensive. I mean, they are so, like I do say, affordable and portable. It sounds like a sales pitch, but it's so easy to get into the game now because everybody has a phone.
Yeah.
I would say just embrace it and don't be afraid to ask questions and don't be afraid to start making mistakes.
Yeah. Let it be messy.
Because we've learned. Let me tell you this. I've got a young man in Jacksonville, Florida, that I work with a little bit, and he records every one of his sessions every day. And he likes to watch his sessions. He likes to watch the pros, so it gives him kind of a reference point. And then I've got retired Dave Fish at Harvard that probably recorded over 100 of his own matches last year with SwingVision.
Wow.
So there's like two extreme examples of people that just said, I'm all in. And they love watching themselves. It's so easy to sort out and say, I just want to look at all my serves, add side T, return +1.
Yeah.
In a match. I mean, how cool is that to watch a 3-hour match in 20 minutes?
And you see that, at the pro level, and you see that in other places. I mean, if you're a fan of football, baseball, whatever, that's how coaches, they're using the data analytics to actually improve their teams, come up with their game plan. So, I think it's already in our world. It's already being used. Tennis, sometimes I think is slow to embrace technology, but to me, it can make the experience so much better, and we can all learn together if we're willing just to jump in. And I agree with you. That's kind of why we're here today. We knew this was going to be a fun adventure for us, and yeah, I can't wait to see what happens tomorrow.
I think we've leapfrogged a lot of the sports, or we're in the process of leapfrogging.
Okay.
I really do. I think that the sport is growing like crazy. Tennis is really on the up again, and the tools are easy to use, easy to access. There's more and more people playing, so I think you're going to see more people embracing technology like SwingVision.
Well, it's a great note to end on. So thank you, George, for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Likewise, thanks for having us. We're super excited about this weekend.
Me too.
All right.
That's all for this edition of the Here to Serve podcast. Again, thanks to George Opelka for joining me, and thanks to SwingVision for being part of this first ever workshop. For more episodes of the Here to Serve podcast, including upcoming topics and dates, visit USTAFlorida.com/here to serve.